I'm out here at the steer pasture this morning. The goal for this morning is to get the rest of these sprinklers fixed that I didn't get through the other day. And then I've got to get their water fixed in the middle pasture and get them moved into that pasture. Here's the sprinkler. That's the pipes here somewhere. Good as new till they break it again. When we get done over here, I gotta head back to the home ranch and get a few things taken care of there, get some cows moved around, and then we're probably gonna start the irrigation water over there as well. I'm gonna jam through the rest of these sprinklers off camera, and then I'll pick the camera up again when I'm doing something new. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Fast forward a little bit and we've got all the sprinklers fixed now. So I need to get this water set up for the calves in the middle pasture here. Got my shovel with me, not so much because I think I'm gonna need to move dirt, but more because this is prime rattlesnake habitat. And if I see one, I wanna be able to take care of it. It's also kind of works to my advantage to be talking to this camera because I'm making noise, and if they are over here, then hopefully the sound of me talking scares them away. So the water trough is right there. We need a somewhat flat place to put it. It used to be on this little wooden thing, but I'm not sure what happened here. This is kind of rotten and I don't think we can use it anymore, but I think I can just put the trough on the ground right next to it. So ironically, I actually do need the shovel to move some dirt. Not get away from this shovel these last couple days. Yeah, let's try that. Seems like underneath this water trough would be a great place for a snake to hide, doesn't it? Nope, nothing there. At least not one I see. What's the important thing to remember when you're placing a water trough? Always put the drain on the outside so it's easy to get to. What do you think? That'll work maybe? Next we got to do the float switch, which is not a bad thing to do when you don't have berry vines, but we got them. While this is filling up, let's see if we can call them up here. As far as I can tell, they're down here in the trees in the shade, so they may not want to get up and move right now, but we'll give it a try. Oh, and I see. Before we leave, they already got this one. Come on, cows! With this group, I think if they see me, they will follow me. I was hoping maybe they would, if they heard me, they would follow me. Where are you guys at? Come on, cows. Oh, there they are. Come on, cows. I'm thinking about coming over here. Look at that. These ones are trained. Come on, cows. Come on, cows. Well, they started coming and then they just stopped. So I think we're gonna have to get behind them and see if we can push them up here. Come on, let's go. No, don't go down here. You're going the right way. Just keep going. Come on, kiddos. Hey. Hey. Come on. Okay, I think they're gonna find it now. Oh, some of them did. Some of them didn't. All right, well, that's that. It was certainly easier getting them in here. But the fact that they had already traveled through all the gates once before, I think was very helpful, because you could see once I started pushing on them, they went right to this corner and they kind of knew where to go. Well, I'm gonna fix this sprinkler that I found, and I'll wait until the water trough fills up, just make sure that's all working correctly, and then we can head to the ranch and move on to the next thing. We're back here at the home ranch now, and I've got several things that need to be done over here. But the first thing that I'm gonna do is close the gate on these bulls. They've made their way up into the little field. I've been trying to catch them when they're up here so that I can just lock them up instead of have to chase them in. And it looks like right now is a good time to do that. The reason I'm wanting to lock them in here is because I need to start the irrigation water down here in the back field where they've been grazing. So I think from here on out, the boys will stay in the little field here until they go out with the main herd. Start down here with these 2 checks, and just to kind of make sure that everything is working right. And then once we do confirm that, then we can actually start irrigating normally. Boy, we need to do something about this berry vine down here. Doesn't take much. That's probably it. A lot of people have a tendency to over grease electric motors. Just about 2 shots of grease a year is really all they need. If you over grease them, what can happen is the grease comes out of the bearing and gets down into the motor itself, and that can cause a lot of problems. Well, let's cross our fingers and hope that it works. This pump has a delay start on it, so we just got to wait here for a minute and make sure it fires up. There it went. The first time you start it for the year, the water comes out looking pretty nasty because it's just been sitting in that well for the entire winter essentially, but after it runs for a minute, it cleans up. We're overflowing. That means we need to go open another valve. The reason that we put a delay start on that pump is because it can potentially prevent a bad breakdown. What can happen is if you're pumping water and let's say the power turns off for like 10 seconds and then turns back on. So during that 10 seconds, as the water falls back down into the well, the pump will start to spin backwards. Now, while the pump is turning backwards, let's say the power turns back on. If the pump started up instantly, then it could potentially break the shaft down in the well. It's probably kind of a long shot, but a pretty easy thing to prevent. So that's why I did it. All right. Well, everything's looking pretty good. The pump's throwing a lot of water. I didn't think it would need to run 4 checks to keep from overflowing, but that's a good sign. That means the water table is up and everything is working the way that it should. These fields are gently sloped that way. So we've got all the water coming up here at the top of the field, and it'll gradually flood its way, work its way all the way down to the end. And when it gets down to there, we'll turn these valves off, open the next ones, and just go down the entire field like that. Once the water makes it down to the end of my field, it'll go into the ditch down there at the end, and then it flows into an irrigation canal where then the rice farmers will pump that water up out of that ditch into their fields, where it falls into another ditch, and kind of so on and so on. I know flood irrigating can kind of seem like a really inefficient way to irrigate, but really the way things are set up around here, whatever is not lost to soaking into the ground or evaporation goes into a ditch and then gets pumped into another field. So it's still in my best interest to not spill a bunch over into that ditch if I can help it, because it does cost me money, obviously, to run that pump. But really, the water is not wasted when that happens. This. Well, as you can see, the grass out here is pretty tall, and honestly, I should have had the cattle out here a couple weeks ago so that they could start grazing on this before it got all headed out like it is now. The reason that I didn't put them in here though is because I'm still not done with my standpipe cage, and I've got a couple of posts on the white fence here that need to be replaced as well. So I didn't want the cows out here while I was doing all that stuff. But the clock's ticking and they're gonna need to come out here soon, so that's why this is my next job. Well, this is done now. It looks pretty good. I think maybe I should have done 2x6s on this bottom board here. I don't really mind if the cattle reach in and eat the grass that's in here. The main purpose of the cage is just to keep them off of the vent pipe. And the only thing that I am kind of worried about now though is that if they're reaching under to get grass, that they might push on this 2x4 and break it. So if that ends up happening, we might add another level of boards there at the bottom, or, you know, I don't know, we'll deal with it when it does happen. How about that? Now I need to clean up all these tools and move them down to the other end of the fence. Okay. Down here on the other end of the fence, you can see we've got some other problems. These posts are completely rotted off. I don't think this one will be any trouble to get out of the ground. This other one, I believe, is more or less the same. Yes. And this third one down here, well, it's rotten. It's not as bad as those two, but it still needs to be replaced. The boards here are not terrible, and honestly, they're mostly ornamental. There's wire on the inside of the fence. That's really what keeps the cows in. I guess the boards add a little bit of a visual deterrent as well. But this is leaning over. It looks terrible, so it needs to be fixed. All right, first things first, let's get this wire off and out of the way. You can see I've got a captive audience this afternoon. It's not feeding time yet, boys. Sorry. We got one. I don't know. Seems unlikely we're gonna get all of them. This board might need to be replaced also. You know I'm gonna end up replacing all of them. I can just feel it. In there. This is just going to break off, isn't it? Well, I was really trying to be careful and not break that post, but there just wasn't really any way around it, I guess. So I'm gonna try to dig out around that post. I need to get the stump out of the ground, because when I come back here to try to dig it, whether it's with the hand digger or the auger, which I've got 3 posts to do here, so it's probably worth it to hook up the auger, but it's not gonna dig through that wood, and I need the posts in the exact same spot. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. Got it. Well, I've got all the tear down complete here, and I'm out of water, so this is a good place to quit, at least for now. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.